Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing great today. I'm going to get started. It is 12 o'clock on the dot, but I do want to be respectful of your time, even though we have, I think, over 20 people registered for this, but they're not on yet. So maybe they're going to catch the recording later. Um, so I'm having a little video problem where I look really dark. I'm actually in my basement. It's pretty light down here, but I don't think it will matter because I'm going to switch to sharing my screen here in a second. And it looked like to me you were able to see it fine. So if something happens and you can't see me, hopefully you can see my screen and it should be okay. I muted everybody coming in so that we don't get any extra noise. And if you can just stay muted throughout the meeting for the purpose of the recording. And then I'll answer any questions. I am like an open book at the end of the presentation. So if there's any questions that I can answer for you about how I did something, I am happy to share what I did, what didn't work, maybe what did work. Um, so with that, let me just switch to my presentation here. Give me one quick second. All right, hopefully you can see the Energize Your Dance and Baton classroom on your screen. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So I want to welcome you and thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And I hope you'll take away at least a few things that help your classes to be even better than what they already are. And I want to just take a quick second to introduce myself. My name is Jacinda, and I own Baton Twirling Unlimited and Kraskin Baton, as well as Dance Twirl Minnesota. So Baton is kind of my thing. I kind of inadvertently just made it my career, even though I started out in education. And I worked in higher education and online courses as online education was becoming a thing back in the 2000s. And then I kind of started my own, well, not kind of, I started my own Baton and dance studio here in the Twin Cities, and then it's grown. And now I've taken on a couple of baton manufacturing companies and have just gotten really busy with the baton world. So we run baton competitions, we support other baton teachers, and we just do baton 24/7, it seems like. So now this is what I do mostly full time. I do still teach in the school system a little bit, but not as much as I used to since the pandemic started. So with that, and mentioning some of the things that I talk about, because we all are from different areas and different areas are handling it differently. I'll talk about kind of things that how I ran it pre-pandemic and currently right now, but I know Minnesota is really different than places in the South. So definitely, if you need to adapt, please do so. So none of this is like black and white rule following. It all has to be adapted to fit into your state, your program, so that you can make it your own. So I hope it helps and gives you some nuggets of information and helps improve your program. So with that, I'm going to kind of start at the beginning life cycle of a baton student because I just want to lay the foundation for how we implemented this games and activities into our classes. So if I give you the backstory on it, when I first started my studio, I was quite a bit younger, like 10 years younger, and I really kept the classes kind of fun and had games all the time and had the kids playing games. And then I don't know if I just maybe got lazy, and I don't mean that to be negative, but maybe just got a little bit lazier in my teaching. Or if I was worried about parents complaining, because we went through a spell where we had some complaints. And so maybe I got really nervous about parents complaining, but we transitioned from having a lot of games and activities in our classes to just playing a quick game the last couple of minutes and really pushing the kids on learning all the time. And now we've kind of come back full circle. And the reason, there were two things that were kind of the catalyst for that coming back full circle. One, I taught for Sue Follinger down in Omaha, Nebraska. So if you know Sue and the Stepperettes, it's a great program. And I was teaching a clinic for her, and she said to me, or our whole teaching staff, make it fun, make it a game, make everything a game for the kids. And it really was something I thought about on the drive home. Like, I'm not doing that anymore with my classes. I am like pushing these kids to get through these tricks so I can get them on our national team, so that I can get them competing. And maybe I need to reshift my own thinking and get these kids having a little bit more fun. And then all of those other things will still happen, but we'll keep more of the kids that we currently have. We'll bring in more kids, and our program will be better for it. And now, sitting on the other side of it, of having adapted how I teach, I can tell you that is what happened. Is we have more students, we're bringing in more students. Even during the pandemic, we brought in new students, both in our in-person and our online classes. So that's why I want to go back and kind of talk about trial classes, because you really kind of have to do this in the full life cycle of the student to make it really work. And certainly if you have current students and you start to apply this model, it'll work that way too, but it's always helpful to start from the beginning. So I am a big proponent of trial classes. Minnesota is not a place where there's a lot of baton twirlers. So people aren't out searching for baton as an activity to do for their kids. If you live in a southern state, we pulled some data from Google, and it was like Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, California, and Texas, I think, were the top states for people searching baton classes for kids, or some variation of that. And Minnesota was not one of those. We are really one of the few baton twirling programs, even in this entire state. So we have to work really hard to get students in. Once we get them in, they're with us for a really long time, but we have to build awareness that we are even out there is something as an option for kids in their youth sports. So the trial classes have been really important to us in growing our program. And they have a few purposes. One is to attract new students and allow them to see if this is something that they're going to love. It also allows us to meet potential families. So of course, when parents are going to allow you to watch their kid for an hour or a couple of hours, there's always some hesitation. Is this person trustworthy? And the trial class really does help in building that relationship with parents. Our trial classes also have been really important in building community awareness. And it's a minimal investment in time and money for parents. So they can come to a 45-minute or hour class, see if their kids like it, and then hopefully enroll with us. But if their kids don't like it, they've spent an hour in our class with us. I do spend quite a bit of time and money advertising our trial classes. And so I'm just going to quick go through the ways I do it. This isn't a webinar on Facebook ads or any of the other advertising things, but I just think it's important to kind of know how we're setting this up. So advertising our trial classes, we do Facebook ads about 2 to 3 weeks prior to the trial class. And I also do emails to my student base. So those are students that have been with me. Those are students that have requested information but maybe never enrolled. Students that quit a long time ago. I also really push my trial classes with my current students. Like, hey, if you have a friend that wants to twirl, this is a perfect way for them to try it. And then I email parents on my current parents on that. I also promote it quite a bit on social media. And then I do all this advertising about 2 to 3 weeks prior to my trial class actually happening. If you sit on different advertising webinars, sometimes they'll say up to 6 weeks. I think for my particular community, that's too long. If somebody enrolls 6 weeks, or for a trial class 6 weeks from now, they're never going to come in my community. They'll forget, they'll have a birthday party, whatever the case may be, and I'll never see those kids. So again, I do about 2 to 3 weeks prior to my trial class is when I start advertising. So right now I'm in a cycle of advertising for my trial classes because I'm running them next week and the following week. How I schedule my trial classes, there's a couple of different things that you can do. I typically do it 2 weeks prior to a class starting. And the reason I do that is if the kids are excited, I want them to enroll for the next session I have available. And I've done it the other way where I ran a trial class in January and didn't have classes starting until March. And I got almost none of those kids to sign up. It was great. I met them, and a couple of them came back for summer classes, but very few. So I really do try to kind of keep them close together when I'm running a trial class and when I'm starting an actual class. Right now, I'm doing both an online via Zoom class, and I'm also doing it in person. People's comfort levels are all over the place. So some people don't want their kids anywhere out in the community at all, and I totally get that. And some people are ready for their kids to be out of their house, which is also fine too. So I'm just doing both, and I am offering both an online class and an in-person class. Winter classes start in February. So the next thing I want to talk about is real quick is just the format of my trial class, because this is really setting up for them how I'm going to run my actual class when they come and join it. And I do have a podcast, and I have a link to the podcast. And in the podcast, I detail this out in much more detail and not quite as fast. So if you want to listen to that podcast, again, I'll provide the link at the end of this presentation so you can check that out. So what I do is I do a quick introduction of myself. Most of the time, the kids don't really care about me and all of my awards that I won 35 years ago. They don't care. I wish they did, but they don't. I do sometimes have one of my younger students or my teenage students come in, and they do care about those girls. Like, what are those teen girls? What do they do with Baton? Do they twirl with their high school? So if I do have enough kids where I have an assistant, which is not a bad idea if you have older teen girls, the kids really do love those girls or boys, but they love those teen kids. So they might spend a little more time. So then I go, from my introduction, I go into a really quick warm up. And I'm sure you're doing warm ups with your kids too. But what I did to make my warm ups really stand out was I added tons of different props to them. So instead of just doing jumping jacks, which is a great way to warm up, I took some sequiny fabric and I cut it into strips. And I gave every single kid 2 strips of sequiny fabric. And then we did all of our stretches with the sequiny fabric. I've also done that with pom-poms. During certain times of the year or when I was doing a themed class, I've done like little masks that I got at the dollar store that were like little animals. So some people were tigers and some people were lions and zebras. So we would do a little mask and I'd play some kind of themed music to the animals. So the dollar store can be your best friend when you're trying to do some of these activities. But you don't even have to really spend anything because you can probably find fabric in your house that you can use. Like I said, pom-poms are really, really simple way to do it. And I just do those I just do those warm-ups with something in their hands and a little fun music, and the kids love it. Again, with COVID, you probably don't want them sharing all of their props that you would give them. So I just created a little bucket. I put their props that they're going to use in that bucket, and then they just put them back in there. Nobody touches anybody else's stuff, and then I'll sanitize everything when I get home at night. Once I've done my warm up, again, just a couple of 2-3 minutes on that, then I'm going to teach them 3 twirls. And I really feel very passionately about these 3 twirls can really get a kid hooked on baton. So we always start them with a figure 8. We call it an ice cream scoop. You might call it something different. But I always start them with the figure 8, a chin roll, just where you tuck the baton underneath your chin, put your arms out, let the baton roll down, and then a little stick toss, and then either an arm roll or an elbow roll, and then a pinwheel, which we call our pinwheels, where you're just passing the baton in your fingertips, kind of moving it forward. It's in between your arms. So those are tricks that kids can feel. Usually they can accomplish it pretty quickly, and they build a ton of confidence. And then I can also play some games with those tricks. So this is how we incorporate the games. So the games don't have to be huge with tons of props, but we're just encouraging them to practice in a way that's more fun than just standing in a 6-foot square. So as they've learned their ice cream scoops and maybe they're going back and forth, now I'll say, okay, let's see who can do it for 15 seconds balancing on 1 foot. And then we see. And of course, there's always some that can, and there's always some that can't. And we celebrate the ones that can do it, and we encourage the ones that need to try that again. And then we come up with other things. So balance on 1 foot, try it in a different hand. Can you catch that stick toss in one hand? Can you catch it in the other hand? Can you add a clap? Can you add 2 claps? How many ice cream scoops can you do in 10 seconds or 15 seconds or 30 seconds? So we kind of incorporate those games as they're practicing, and then they're practicing and they don't really even realize that they're practicing hard, but they are. So after we do those 3 twirls, then I do 3 dance skills. And I am making this webinar pretty specific to baton, but of course you could apply this to gymnastics or even maybe martial arts. There's a lot of these concepts can just be customized for whatever you're trying to teach. For my dance skills that I try to incorporate, I usually do an arabesque, because that can be done with the ice cream scoop or the pinwheels. I do a step together. So where they step with their left foot, the right foot comes to meet it. They step with the right foot, the left foot comes back to meet it. Again, that's really easily done with an ice cream scoop. And then I do kicks. And then again, I'm going to play those challenge games with them, especially in this era where we're keeping kids socially distanced. We have squares marked off, and then they stay in those squares, but they can play all of these games right in those squares without moving around. And our squares are big enough, they can actually chasse from the back of the square to the front of the square. So that's another option too. If I have a little bit older group, I might teach chasses if they're young. That's kind of a hard concept for little ones to learn in such a short amount of time. So then I play the challenge games again with the dance skills. And then I play a bigger game that incorporates both the baton and the dance. And I might keep it really simple, like Simon says. Simon says to do an ice cream scoop while balancing on 1 foot. Simon says to do a pinwheel while on your knee. Or I might make it a little bit harder if the kids are a little more advanced or they're a little bit older. Maybe I have them do chin roll, toss, and 2 claps. If I spend a little bit more time prepping for my class, then I could play a bingo. And I might play the bingo if I was doing a 90-minute class. 45 minutes goes by really fast. But if I'm doing a 90-minute trial class, then I would probably do a bingo or some sort of board game. And I use the term board game loosely because I'm not really giving them a board game. I'm giving them a worksheet on a piece of paper that they would do in their square. And then after I do that bigger game that incorporates both baton and dance, then I'm going to do a little routine or a combination. And I usually do about 24 counts. It's enough that the kids learn something to some fun music, but not so much that they can't remember it when the parents come in. And if you're in a seat where you can have parents come in, then after I've taught them the routine or combination, we should be getting to the end of our class I have the parents come in. I do a little bit longer introduction with the parents at that point, talk to them about my background, how long I've taught, what our kids are doing, competitively, or that we have feature twirlers. And then we have every child share their favorite trick that they learned that day and then take a bow and we all clap for them. And then we do our routine or our combination. And then we have parents also record that so that they can post it on social media and tag our studio. And then right before the end, so before I actually have them perform their routine, I also tell them about the next class session that I have coming up, where I say, like, we have a class starting in 2 weeks. It's both online, it's in person if you'd rather be in person. And if you sign up today, you're going to get a bonus. And in that bonus, I usually give them something that they don't have to buy as an extra. So I either give them a baton or a pair of ballet shoes or a pair of tights. Now, and I'm not really giving them to them for free. I built that into the cost of my class, that if they sign up, then they would get the free baton or whatever. So I'm not really giving it away for free, but to the parents, they're not getting charged for extra things. They're not paying $60 for the upcoming baton class, plus $20 for a baton, plus $20 for shoes, plus $10 for tights. I might even just package all those things and say, if you sign up today and you buy that package, then you get all of those things for $40 instead of, and it's a $20 savings. So I try to make sure that there's enough of a savings for them that they sign up that day, because what happens is if they don't sign up, chances are it's going to be a lot more work for me to get that kid to sign up for class, because once the kid leaves, they lose a little steam, the parents get busy, and it gets hard to get them to sign up. So I always give a bonus. And then this transitions into our classes that we have. So when I talk about incorporating games and activities for your classes, typically what I'm doing is I have classes from ages 4 to 5 to preteen. Usually by the time they're preteens, they've either moved on to our competitive teams or they aren't doing the sport as much anymore. We do still do some things with our competition kids and our teen competition groups, but it's just not as much. And maybe that's something we need to reconsider as well. But the group that we have, they are pretty hard workers. They kind of want to come in and get going and work on their routines. So they don't really want that as much as I've had other groups that have. So as I talk about some of the games and activities, that's kind of where I'm talking about, is those recreational kids. And again, we're trying to build the excitement in them so that they want to continue. Now, my class format, what I do is, again, kind of mirrors that trial class, but it's just a hair different because the class is going to go for more than one time. So I do that fun warm up using a prop, using different music, maybe doing it backwards. So instead of doing jumping jacks like this, I have them start from the top and go to the bottom. So we just try all kinds of different silly things, and the kids love it. Then I do new tricks with my students. So whatever it is that I'm teaching them that week, I do those new tricks. Then we have an activity or a game. Then we work on dance or flexibility. So right now, my recreational kids, we're working on splits. So we work on stretches that get them ready to do the splits. Then we practice our splits. And one of the things that we're doing is we took a picture of them before the winter break doing their splits. We'll come back. Tonight is our first night of classes in 2021. And then we'll stretch really good, and we'll take another picture of them. Hopefully they've stretched over break. And then we're going to take another picture of them in 3 weeks, and then we're going to put them in a pic collage for them. And hopefully we've seen some progress from the first time to the second time to the third time. And then that's something to really celebrate. If we have any kids that get the splits over the course of the last month and a half-ish, then we will get them a gift card to go to Dairy Queen and get a banana split. I mean, they really can get anything they want, but um, we give them a little gift card to Dairy Queen. If it weren't COVID, we would do a banana split party in class. That's what we've done in the past. But I just thought parents maybe wouldn't be as comfortable with dishing out ice cream and things and eating around their friends. So we just went with the gift card for this time. So then after we do our dance or our flexibility move, then we work on our routine. I play tons of games with routines because if you taught classes that start in September and you start working on a routine and they don't perform it till May, which is the case sometimes in recreational classes, they start in September and they only do recital and our recitals in May. You got to do something to keep them excited about that routine. So we do all kinds of games with routines. I do quizzes, and I'll go through those in just a second. And then I have usually an ending game or activity with the kids after we work on their routines. So that's how I lay out my format of my classes. So let me talk about all the different things that we do in classes. So this is kind of the meat of what you are probably here for. So I do tons of challenges, individual challenges for those kids. And I try to mix it up to maybe do something different every single week. So it does take a little bit of planning on my part because what keeps them excited is something new and shiny all the time. So I do the individual challenges, maybe standing on one foot and doing a trick that we learned last week. It could be standing for 30 seconds. It could be doing a passe. It could be trying to work on your splits. So I keep it really focused on the individual and improving the individual for those kids that maybe aren't comfortable with competing or feel nervous or not as confident about their own abilities. That kind of really helps them to see their own growth. I do timed challenges. So I'm going to use thumb flips as kind of the baseline for a lot of the activities I'll talk through, just so that because it's something that beginners work on quite a lot in order to master. So in my time challenges, I'll say, okay, how many thumb flips can you do in 30 seconds? Okay, now I'm going to time you again, see if you can beat that number. And I don't have the kids share with me how many they did in the first time versus the second time because they always want to one up each other. And then I don't really know I know that a beginner didn't do 100 thumb flips in 30 seconds. But so I just have them tell me if they were able to improve. And I try to kind of keep an eye on and see how many they're getting so that I know if they are actually improving. And I do that with all kinds of thumb flips. I do it with left-hand thumb flips, backhand tosses, horizontal tosses. So I just time them one time, time them again. I also do the same thing with kind of along the same lines with beat the teacher. So I have the kids do thumb flips for 1 minute, and then I do thumb flips for 1 minute, and we see if their total number of thumb flips they got can beat mine. Now, if they have, if it's a pretty small class, sometimes they can beat me. If it's a large class, I have a class of 10, and they're pretty good. They usually beat me, so then I'll combine like the assistant and my thumb flips, just because there's so many of them that they can get going pretty fast. They love trying to beat me or trying to beat the teacher and I. And we also sometimes throw in an extra challenge that if the kids win, then the assistant and I, we have to do 5 push-ups. And if we win, they have to do 5 push-ups. So we make it even a little more fun with some exercises. We'll also do those challenges in splitting the kids up into teams. So you need to have, 6 kids or something. So you can group them in groups of 3 or divide them in half and then add up all of the thumb flips in team 1 versus the thumb flips in team 2 and then see who won. We do lots of balancing challenges. So balancing in the passe, the arabesque, the foot out to the side, the foot in front, the foot at the back. And then we do the other foot because they'll always pick their favorite foot, of course. And then we also do the speed challenges that I kind of mentioned. And to make these even a little bit more fun, if you've got a class that goes from September to May, I try things like opposite hands. So doing horizontal in the left hand or reverse. If they've got it pretty clear, if I'm doing horizontals, I don't want them to confuse a correct horizontal with an incorrect one. But if they've got it, then I'll have them do it the wrong way, quote unquote. I'll have them close their eyes and see if they can do it. Of course, we wouldn't do that with tosses. Um, so I just try to think of all kinds of different things. Can they do it in a plank? Can they do it sitting on the floor, on one knee, sitting crisscross applesauce? And then it just really keeps them moving, keeps them excited to practice. So one of the other games that we love to play is based on Duck Duck Goose or Duck Duck Grey Duck, and but we call it Twirl Twirl Chasse. So if you have the kids seated in a circle, and then they go around and they tap each other on the head, or maybe with COVID we wouldn't tap each other. So we would go twirl, twirl, and then they would chasse around to try to get seated again. I've also, if they have pretty good control of their batons, I'll have them do a trick in their left hand versus just having that left hand doing nothing. So they're tapping on the head with the right hand and they're twirling with the left hand. And then when they slide into their spot, I just have them hold their baton so nobody gets hit. Another fun thing to do with routines is have them do a character performance. And this is an absolute hoot. So you can have them practice their routine, and they need to have it memorized fairly well. But then have them do it as if they were the dad, as if they're their dad or their grandma or their grandpa or their mom or Santa or a princess or a fairy. And the kids will absolutely love it. They will be rolling laughing. Especially like with the grandma and grandpas, of course, because they use the batons as the canes. So moving on to the trivia category. So I do trivia games with the kids, especially if we've done something we're working out really hard or practicing routines really hard, then we'll do some team trivia. And you can have them in your recreational classes, do questions about when did I start teaching? Where did I twirl when I was younger? Where does my assistant twirl in college? What are our team colors? And when did we win state? Or what parade do we march in every single summer? So whatever kind of questions about your program, but it really does help build that sense of community within your classes, especially your recreational classes, building up to your competitive classes. I also do that with their routine. I do a quiz with their routine or a trivia with their routine. And this would be geared more towards your older kids. So probably kind of late elementary school up to teens. But I'll ask them, again, assuming they're recreational and maybe they only have one or two one spins in their routine, I might come up with a quiz that says, what is the trick that follows the one spin? What trick comes after when we go down on our knee? What formation are we in when we lean to opposite sides and do figure eights? And then whoever has the most correct answers, then I'll give them a small reward. And your rewards can be things like, I always hit up Oriental Trading, but can be things like pens, pencils, candy, Starbucks gift cards if they're a little bit older and maybe it's a bigger thing that you're trying to get them to do. So you can give stickers. There's all kinds of things you can give to kids. So the next thing that we love to do in our recreational classes are relay races. So we break the kids up into 2 groups or 4 groups, whatever the size of your class is. And then we have them chasse up to me, and then they have to do whatever trick that I ask them to do. And then once they do that trick, then they chasse to the back. And we've even done this during COVID. What we did was we took floor dots, we spaced the floor dots 6 feet apart for each team, And then once they finish, they just go around and they stand on a dot, and then they progress forward as everybody goes. And once everybody has their whole team go through and do the trick and then go back to the end of the line, then the team that finishes first is the winner. And they love doing this game. We even do silly things. Instead of just shossing up to us, we have them crab crawl, we have them bear walk, we have them slither like snakes. Maybe the slithering is a little more little kiddish. We don't always do that with our teens because they don't like doing that so much. But those relay races are a great way to get them to practice, to build their friendships in their classes and with their teams. We also do obstacle courses, and that we're actually doing this one tonight in our class. So we're going to put paper, but you could use anything, out on the floor, and then the kids have to break the kids into teams, and then each team needs to get one designated person who'll be blindfolded across the floor without stepping on any of the paper. So they're working on their team skill, their team building skills. They're working on their communication skills. And then we're going to give each of the kids 3 suckers, and they have to give those suckers to somebody that helped them, that was kind to them, or somebody on their team that made a difference. And then hopefully they give all their suckers out and everybody ends up with a few suckers, and then they can then that's how we'll end our class. So then everybody leaves feeling really good about their class, really good about class, and getting to hopefully know the kids a little bit better. So you can also do a little bit kind of different take on that. You can also do an obstacle course, which is an actual obstacle course. So I've done things where I've taken a strip of tape on the floor, and then the kids have to walk on their tiptoes across the strip of tape and then do a thumb toss. And then I'll have a set of palms, and maybe they have to jump across the palms back and forth, and then they do a horizontal toss. So essentially they're working their way through the obstacle course, and then when they get finished, they either get a sticker or they get a treat if I was giving a treat. I love using the star charts or sticker charts, and you can get those. I think you can even get them at Target now. But it just has the kids' names down one side, and then little columns going across. And every time they get a sticker, and then I just say every 10 stickers you get to draw from the prize bucket. They love drawing from the prize bucket, so they'll go crazy over and trying to get those stickers to get their draw from the prize bucket. So that's a lot of fun as well. Another idea that I love doing with the kids are stations. So for our stations, we just set up a picture on the wall around the classroom, and I might do like 6 or 7. And depending on the level, I'm going to use my most beginner recreational kids as an example. So I might have a picture of a figure 8 or an 8. If the kids are readers, then I'll type into the piece of paper figure 8, horizontal, thumb toss, chin roll toss. And at each station, they have to do it 5 times. And again, if they can go around and they can do every single trick 5 times, which they should be able to, then they can either put a sticker on their chart, or if I'm giving the prize that day, then they can pull from the prize bucket. So that's something that kids really seem to enjoy. It's a fun way to practice. Prior to COVID, then I had them doing it in teams, and they really love that. But I have not done that this year. So I have enough stations for each student, and then they transition all at one time. So no one is crossing paths, or and it's a little more controlled. The other thing that we love to do are make it take it. And you really probably need to do this either in multiple classes over the course of a month or so, or if you have like a longer practice. And some of the make it take it's that we've done are bag tags for their baton bags or their suitcases, tie-dye t-shirts, bows. We've done scrapbooks. We've done vision board, team pillowcases. So those are a few ideas of some of the things that we've done. We do most of our make it take it with our competitive kids just because we usually have them for a lot longer. We have them for 2 hours, or in the summer, we have them for 5 or 6 hours. And so that can be a fun way for us to not only kind of get them more stuff with our name on it, but it also can be a fun way for them to work together. And I usually have our younger team members paired up with an older team member. So then you're really developing those relationships across your groups as well. Um, and then one of the other things that I love to do with the kids are finish my phrase. So if I will say to them, I'll give them a worksheet, and on the worksheet it might have 10 things listed, and it'll say figure and then a blank space. And I do have one very similar to this done for the holidays on the website that you can download if you want, or use that as a way to create your own. So then the kids should hopefully put in 8 in the blank space. Or I might write thumb, and then the blank would be toss or flip or something like that. And then I can give a prize for the kids that have the most creative answer or have the most correct answers. So just again, another game that helps kind of build that terminology for them, but does it in a more fun way than just a traditional quiz. And then one of the games that all of our kids love to play, competitive or recreational, is bingo. They have loved playing bingo games, and if you just do a quick search on Google for free bingo creator, you can go in and you can make a bingo game that is as easy as you need it to be for your beginner kids, or as advanced as you need it to be for your more advanced kids. But bingo is always fun. I love bingo myself, so it's always super fun for our kids to do. So this kind of leads into referral programs, which is, I always think of it as being kind of the back end of our recruiting program that we do to keep new students coming in, but it really should be kind of in the front with our trial classes, I'm sure. So if we do all of these things, and now we've done them for a couple of years, so we know that it works, what this creates is it creates happy kids and happy parents. And then those parents are out talking to other parents and sharing with them how much they love our classes or their teacher. And then they refer families to us. And I would say about 75% of our students this year are referrals. So even during the pandemic, we have had kids that started new classes with us in the fall, which I'm just so happy about and so proud of. We give out tons of bonuses for our referrals. So, for example, tonight, I'm going to talk to my recreational kids about that we have a trial class. So, if you have anybody who wants to start Baton or try Baton, have them come. And if they come, I'll give both of you a baby baton. So I give them a little something that they get. And my students love baby batons. So that's something that I just give to them if they refer us a new student. If the student enrolls for a class, then I try to give them a little bigger gift too. And our students love our team jackets. Now, that does have some expense to it, so you have to kind of weigh that out. If I'm enrolling for a 6-week summer session, I don't do the jackets because I can't recoup the money. Our team jackets cost me probably about $25 to $30. And what I do, if the student is enrolling somebody is referring somebody who's gonna enroll for our school year or our winter spring session, they're gonna pay about $60 in tuition the first month. So I recoup that money for that jacket in the first month. And it's my responsibility to make sure that child keeps coming back in all the subsequent months, so that that doesn't become a losing something that I'm losing money on. But doing that team jacket really makes a big difference. And then if I am recruiting only for our summer session or a 6-week session, like I said, I don't do the team jacket because I can't make up the money for that. But I do a t-shirt. And we have a dress code. So I try to do a black t-shirt with some design on it, and then they can wear it to their Baton class. And it has our team name on it. So it's a win-win in all situations. The kids are happy. They're getting some branded logo or branded apparel from us. So they're wearing that out into the community, building our name recognition. And the new kids are happy. And I usually try to give a bonus to the new kids. It's not usually as big as a team jacket, but I do try to give them something for registering. And then I recognize the kids that refer new kids to us in their class as much as possible. So if the friend comes to the class either with them or they have maybe they have a class before the child that referred, I try to take a picture of them together. I post that on social media. I put it in our newsletter. If they're not there on the same night, then I can't always grab that picture unless the parents have a picture of the kids together. But then I do a big deal about it, announcing it in class. So I'll, at the end or the beginning when I'm doing my announcements, I'll say, I'm going to have Sally come up. Sally referred us a new student. Here's her baby baton and her team jacket or whatever it is that she's won. And thank you so much for having your friend start with us. We're so excited to have her in class. And the kids love it because we all love being recognized. And I'm always talking to my students every time they tell me something about, well, my friend tried my baton out and she really loved it. And so I'm always using those little opportunities with my students to get them to have their friend come in. Oh, have them contact me, and they could even start Baton with us in February, or have them come check it out one day. Again, pre-COVID, we really try to keep our class sizes at a certain number, and but some of those things really do help build those referrals. And I'm not out there being real salesy. I'm not comfortable with that. Like I don't go up to people in the grocery store and give out my business card. But I'm always talking to the kids about, oh, have your friend come join and have them try our trial class. They'll love it. And I use tons of positive language with the kids in thanking them, in recognizing them. And a lot of, like I said, about 75% of our students come to us through referrals from either the kids or the families. So it is working. And we did notice when we were kind of in that slump for our retention, when we weren't really incorporating the activities, we were being a little bit stricter and a little more too focused on how many tricks we were trying to accomplish. We did notice our referrals went down. We noticed our retention went down. But since we've started implementing this, we've noticed both have gone back up and are in the 70s to 80% range. And that's kind of an industry standard in the dance world. So I think it's working. And hopefully once COVID is done, or some of those worries start to dissipate a little bit, hopefully that we can start to see even bigger growth in our programs. And I think it will work anywhere in any city. I've tried it in really affluent suburbs here in the Twin Cities, and I've tried it in suburbs that aren't as affluent, and it does seem to work in both. So I did mention that there are some resources. I do have a teacher resources page on the Baton Twirling Unlimited website, and I have a ton of resources for you on there. Most of them are free, and you can just download the worksheets, make as many copies as you want, and go play a game with your class. We also have a game and activities class, and I use the term class loosely because it's not really a class that you have to do anything with, but it's a game and activities resource. And we have from ages preschool to teen and all of the holidays, we have over 10 activities and games that you can incorporate into your classes with by just printing it off. So you just go into your class, you print it off, and then you can use that in your class. And since you guys came on the webinar today, you can use the coupon code Baton Rocks to take 40% off of it. And it just saves you so much time because there's no thinking about what you have to try to incorporate in class to make it more fun. You can just print and go. So we built up all of these ideas and resources and games. Many of them are real generic in that they are could be used in dance or baton. So you have to kind of customize them because they are meant for dance, baton, gymnastics, martial arts. So all you have to do is just kind of think outside the box. And if you ever need help in trying to customize a game or an activity, reach out to me anytime, and I'm happy to try to brainstorm different things that work for your group. You can email me, you can text me, or call me anytime, and I'm happy to help. And then I did include the link to the podcast on both trial classes and games and activities. So if you want to listen in a little more detail about how we do trial classes in the games and activities, on the games and activities, I really talk more about class structure and less specific games and activities that we do. So it's a little different take than this presentation. But with that, if you have any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself, and I am happy to answer whatever questions you may have. And I'm just going to stop recording.